All right, what's up, everybody? We're here for another edition of the DSA Offside Show. Who we got with us today? We got Jim. What's up, Jim? How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. A little under the weather, but we're gonna make it through today. Okay.
Yep, for sure. All right, Seth, how you doing?
Good. We don't have a guest this week, but as The Rock would say, it doesn't matter if we don't have a guest this week. We're still going to have a good show today. We have a lot to dive into, to talk about. So let's get to it. You heard it from me, Seth Walker.
All right, so we're just going to jump right into the questions. Seth, we're going to start off with your what if scenario. So give us some background as to what's going on. Give us some background, at least as much background as you can, and yeah.
Well, alrighty then, since you asked so kindly, we're going to go back to 1996 today, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for this history lesson. 1996 to the Ray Shepard, Igor Larionov trade. Now, to provide some background, Shepard had been a key player for the Red Wings, becoming a perennial 30-goal scorer. Then scored 52 in the 93-94 season and 30 in the lockout-shortened 94-95 season. But then he ended up needing a new contract, and he filed for arbitration. And, he wanted a higher amount than the Wings were willing to give him, because the Wings didn't want to give him all that much because he was such a one-dimensional goal scorer, wasn't really that great of a passer, skater, didn't play defense. All he did was score goals, nothing else. He was not a complete player. So the Wings didn't want to pay him as much as he wanted. But he won the arbitration, and that basically put him in the doghouse to where he became the subject of trade rumors, just like Steve Yzerman, even though the fans pretty much revolted against Scotty Bowman for wanting to trade Yzerman. And of course, we all know that Yzerman remained a Red Wing for life as a player. We're not counting when he was a GM for Tampa Bay. As a player, he was a Red Wing for life. But Shepard, on the other hand, he became a healthy scratch for a number of games before being traded to the Sharks for Igor Larionov, an aging but talented playmaking Russian center whose best days were behind him, but he still had some juice left in the tank, as it turns out. With the Red Wings, he ended up having his best NHL season with 71 points that season, 69 after the trade. In fact, he averaged about a point per game after the trade. Before the trade, he averaged far less in the handful of games he played with the Sharks. But more importantly, he became the final piece of the Russian Five with Fedorov, Kozlov, Konstantinov, and Fetisov. And if you haven't seen the documentary about the Russian Five, it is definitely a must-see. Larionov became a big part of that as the professor, as Mickey Redmond nicknamed him, not only because he has such a high hockey IQ, but because he looked like a professor. If you look at him off the ice, when he wore his glasses, he just looked like a smart guy. So basically, what if the Red Wings never made that trade? Because this was the season before they ended their 42-year drought. So what if they never made that trade?
All right, Jim, do you want to take this one first, or do you want me to take this one first?
Oh, I'm fine. I'll take it. Number one, since he was in the doghouse the way he was, there's no way they don't make this trade in the first place. But hey, that's okay. We're going into what ifs, and if we don't make this trade, I don't think the Russian players are as good. I think that he was kind of their coach. He was kind of a mentor. Played for the Russian team in the Olympics. Very good player, and actually, I think he was 40 years old. Am I right on that, Seth?
I'd have to check on that.
I want to say he was.
I know he was up there.
Pretty close to 40.
He wasn't as old as Fetisov, but he was up there. He was drafted in 85.
True. So anyway, he was an older player. He was a mentor for the guys. I think he kind of gelled with the rest of them. And you know what? I don't think we win as many Stanley Cups without him.
Yeah, I think me and you were kind of on the same page, Jim. Ray Shepard, in that documentary about the Red Wings, I remember Jim Devellano was telling Scotty Bowman, like, bro, we can't trade him. You know how many goals he gets, right? And then Scotty Bowman was like, yeah, I know, but we haven't won a Stanley Cup, Jim. I'm pretty sure it was more depth than that. They didn't go into as much depth. I'm pretty sure Sky Bowman told Jim Devellano the exact same thing that Seth alluded to. It talked about at the when he laid out the scenario. Like, yeah, he scores goals, but hockey's not a one-dimensional sport. You have to have the brains. You have to be in the right spot at the right time. You have to play defense, get back in transition.
But it's also about gelling as a team too. It's also
exactly.
about the locker room aspect of it. That many people they disregard that, but it's a very important piece to the puzzle. You've got a guy that, like he said, filed for arbitration. Now, is he? I don't think the players cared that much. I'll be honest. They probably didn't, because players are more for players getting money. You know what I'm saying? And saying, hey, cool. But hockey players are a weird animal. So it's like, I don't know if it caused any problems locker room wise or not. It did cause problems between him and the office, and they had to get rid of him. I think it was the right move. I also think it changed the dynamic of the Red Wings organization when they made that move.
No, absolutely. Like, where was I going with? Like, no, speaking of locker room tension, I actually want to ask Seth about this. Seth, do you think you'd be? I don't know if you might have the full answer, but Ray Sheppard fired for arbitration, and I don't want to call what Fedorov did a holdout because he wasn't. I don't want to call it a holdout. I mean, I guess I don't have the best.
You kind of can. Go ahead.
Well, I guess my question for you is, how would you compare what Sheppard did to what Fedorov did?
I really can't answer that question because I never really had any idea of the player reaction to Sheppard. I do know that, from my impression at least, was that Larionov ended up being a much better fit overall not only in terms of the style of hockey Scotty Bowman wanted to play, but also in terms of the team gelling. Larionov, from what I heard, from what I gathered, got along with all the players, not just his fellow Russians, gelled well. With Fedorov, he was such a big part of the team. He had won the Hart Trophy, a couple of Selke trophies, and of course, such an integral part of that team to where they wouldn't have won those cups without him. That I think when Fedorov, held out for his contract, I'm not sure if that soured the players as much, but it definitely soured the fans because they saw him as being a greedy player out for the money for $6 million when they were only willing to give him $4 million. It wasn't an issue of his talent; it's the perception of that. By that time, he was taking nights off, even though, in all fairness, scoring was dropping, and he also spent a few weeks of that season playing defense. So, in all fairness, and then he still brought it in the playoffs. He had like 20 points, 9 goals in the playoffs that year. He could have, even though Vernon won the Conn Smythe, it could have just as easily been Fedorov who won it that year. So basically, yeah, that's what I had to say about that. I don't know if that's really an answer, but that's what I had to say about it.
All right, no, I feel you. But as far as Ray Sheppard, in all honesty, I would say our cup drought would probably not have ended until 2008, if I gotta be honest.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair assessment.
I don't think the Larionov trade was one of the most pivotal trades as to what got us over the top. It's just the reality. Larionov, in all honesty, I don't think how good of a player he was actually ever showed up on the stat sheet as much as it should have. I don't know if that makes sense, but Larionov, he was such a key piece. Ray Sheppard, he was a good player, but he probably wasn't. His role on the Red Wings was probably a little bigger than it should have been, if that makes any sense. But speaking of Ray Sheppard, I don't know if he got traded. He got traded to the Sharks, and then he didn't even play the whole season with the Sharks. I don't know if the Sharks traded
No,
him.
he didn't. They traded him to the Panthers. They traded him to a cup contender. Since the Sharks were like in the crapper that season, they had a fire sale because they also traded Sanders Ozolinsh to the Avalanche, who won the cup that year. So the Sharks were just in the crapper that season. So,
so
they didn't hold on to him.
Okay. I thought they didn't hold on to him for a different reason, but yeah, no, this would have not, we'd still be in the midst of our cup drought. I mean, who knows? Maybe we would eventually just get another Russian player, but our cup drought probably wouldn't have ended until 2008. That's what my personal thing is, I guess. But does anyone else have anything to add, or should we go ahead and move on?
I'm good.
Moving on.
All right. I want to talk about this. This is a team we've had success against lately. Why have the Red Wings been able to have solid success against the Bruins lately? So the Red Wings in the 2019-2020 season went 2-1 against Boston, and then the 2018-19 season, the Red Wings went 3-1 against Boston. Why have the Red Wings been able to be successful against this particular team that is clearly a very superior team to our team? Seth, let's start off with you.
I don't really have a scientific answer. It's just that one of those things that it just happens. Sometimes if you're a really good team, you can beat most of the other teams, but there's that one team that you struggle against, even if it is a not so good team. I go back to the 90s when the Red Wings were, becoming cup contenders, 95, 96. They actually kind of struggled against the Senators, believe it or not. A couple years in a row, the Senators beat them at the Joe. And then one of those seasons was, in fact, the 95-96 season when the Senators were the worst team of the league and the Red Wings won 62 games. In fact, they only lost 3 home games all season, and one of those 3 was to the Senators, the worst team of the league. So it's one of those things to where it just happens, I guess. A team that, gets a groove against another team, and it happens for a while. They were good against the Bruins in the 90s, too. But I guess if I'm to be more objective, I think a lot of it has to do with the Wings and Bruins being not only division rivals, but original 6 teams. Teams that which didn't really get to face each other that often before the latest realignment for the Red Wings came east. So the Bruins are just a team that the Red Wings get up for, being in the division rival and original 6 team. So that's my answer.
All right, losing to the Senators. Yeah, the Senators, they're kind of a joke right now, but and they were a joke back then. But yeah, I agree with you because there's not real. I couldn't really find any rhyme or reason as to why the Red Wings were having success against the Bruins. I agree with you. Sometimes it just happens. But Jim, what do you think? Why have the Red Wings been able to have success against the Bruins lately?
Well, there's a couple of recipes to this, and one is that Boston plays with a lot of energy when they play with other teams that are more their ilk. And I look at this as kind of like the Detroit Red Wings versus the Anaheim Mighty Ducks in playoff series when they had Abear and they would put shots and shots and shots on goal. They just couldn't score for some reason. It's extremely frustrating for a team, but sometimes you play down to the competition and you get a hot goalie. The last one, with one of them with Bernier, they had 70 shots on goal and still lost. I mean, it's one of those things, I guess, but also the matchups between Boston and Detroit are interesting because there's just certain matchups that they're not as good at because, we do different things. But I think my main point on this whole situation is every team has one team that it's just their bugaboo, and they just for some reason they never play up to their level of competition. Sometimes they'll NHL players never want to say this, but man, sometimes you take a team lightly just because they're the Red Wings and we know they're no good, no big deal. We got this game, we're worried about the next game. something like that. But you hit a hot goaltender, you hit, a team that just frustrates you, and that emotional and the frustration level and all the other factors involved, I think, is the reason why that Boston keeps losing to us.
Well, I mean, I disagree about, dude, after you lose one or two times, you don't play down. Like, dude,
but then it becomes the frustration level.
Right.
Psychological.
Why can't we beat this team? What the heck is going on? So now you press and you're doing, you know what I mean? I don't know if you understand.
No, I
psychological, yeah.
Psychological
game.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
it's in their head after a while.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Well, here's what I found. So our leading scorers have been Larkin, Mantha, and Athanasiou in these last 7 games. Each of those guys have 4 goals apiece.
Mm-hmm.
Our leading assist guy is Tyler Bertuzzi with 7. We've had 3 different players have 2 or more goal games: Fabry, Athanasiou, and Mantha. And we've had 6 different players be able to have 2 or more assist games. Those players are Tyler Bertuzzi, Athanasiou, who's no longer a Red Wing, Cronwall, Mantha, Nielsen, and Nyquist. I mean, there's not really one single player that seems to get hot or anything like that, at least in terms of our forwards and defensemen. There's not really, I didn't really see one single player get a super hot streak going or anything like that.
PD, do you remember the time that the Red Wings played Anaheim and they would just kept firing shots on Aber? Maybe Seth, you remember this better than.
Was it in 03?
Yeah. Yeah, the time we just could not score on that team, and they would get like just some cheap goal, and it's like, oh my gosh, really? And we have setups after setup, at nice plays after nice plays, and just couldn't put it past Hebert.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force. I was in tech school during that time, so I couldn't watch the games, but I kept tabs, and I definitely got made fun of by one of the prior service guys, sergeant who had come over from the Army. He was like, "What happened to the Red Wings? They got swept. They did.
And they shouldn't have.
No, I very, very vividly remember, not vividly, that's the wrong word. I don't remember that series all that well. I was pretty dang young when that series occurred.
Oh, okay.
No, but I do remember it happening, and then the Ducks would go on to lose to the Devils in 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, that's the first NHL playoffs I remember solidly. And I think Jaguar went on to win the
it was Jaguar. It was Jaguar. I kept saying
Hebert. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking Hebert too, because he had been the Ducks goalie for so long before then.
Yeah, it was Jaguar. It was J.S. Jaguar, and
John Sebastian Jaguar.
Yeah, he just stood on his head, and that's what happened with Bernier in the one game with Boston, at least. Where there were 70 shots on goal, dude. 70. That's unheard of, man.
Yeah, no. Actually, that's a good point. Bernier seems to have some of his best games against the Bruins as well. But I feel like we've gotten some better bounces than we ever get against a lot of other teams also. I remember
that's true.
On our first game against Boston, I can't remember every lucky bounce we got, but our first game against Boston, I remember it looked like Larkin was trying to make a pass, and then it hit the goalie's pad and went into the net.
Yep. You hear of the hockey gods, and they do smile on Detroit when they play Boston for sure.
Well, PD, you made a point. There wasn't any one player that dominated against Bruins, so that shows it was a team effort. So that kind of feeds into my point in the Bruins being one of those teams that the Red Wings got up for, not as an original 16 division rival, but also as one of the top teams. Because I remember earlier in the season, the Red Wings had a real bad spell, but then they got up against the Oilers, who were one of the league's best teams during that time. Beat that team. So a lot of times you will get up for the good teams and, put your best foot forward, your best show, so you don't get embarrassed and, your pants falling off your butt crack and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
sure.
that's funny.
Yeah, for sure. Does anyone else have anything to add, or do you think we could just go ahead and move on to the next question?
We are moving forward, dude. We never stand still.
All right. Yep. We're going to go ahead and move forward then. All right. I know, Jim, Actually, no, Joe, I'm going to save you for second on this one because you're going to have the best answer. So
Okay.
taking your biases out of the equation, what are/were your thoughts on Claude Lemieux as a player? And for those of you listening, I would go YouTube search Claude Lemieux hit on Chris Draper real fast, and you'll see why pretty much no one on this panel will have anything nice to say about this guy. But anyways, taking your biases out of the equation, and I know I despise this player, dirty player. He's a coward. We have nothing nice to say about him, but we're gonna try to say some nice things about him. What are your thoughts on him as a player? Taking the person aside, what are your thoughts on him as the player? Seth, let's start with you first.
I'm glad I'm going first because I'm sure Jim would probably outshine me, but oh well, we'll see. As a player, the two things that stand out to me for him as a player are, first off, he was a pest. He was the type of player that wouldn't necessarily always drop the gloves and fight, but he would get into other players' faces, get under their skin, get them mad, and maybe get them to retaliate. Maybe throw a few punches here and there, like he sucker punched Kozlov a couple of games before the hit on Draper. Kind of, I guess, kind of get the energy up for his teammates. And then the other thing was he was a clutch player. He would always come through during the playoffs. Not that he was a crappy player in the regular season, but, he was a 30-goal guy for a while, even had a 40-goal season. But he would always elevate his play during the playoffs. The year before the hit on Draper, when he was in New Jersey, he won the Conn Smythe Trophy, leading the league in goals. And that was actually the original reason why I came to despise him, because he led the Devils to the Cup, won the Conn Smythe Trophy, scored that game winner in Game 1. That was my original reason for hating him. The hit on Draper was after the fact, so that only made it worse. But as a player, he compares very comparably to Esa Tikkanen during that time, except Tikkanen was finished. Almost the exact same type of players. Could score you 30 goals in a season, but would elevate their play in the playoffs, getting 12, 13, 14 goals in the playoffs, and just get under other people's skin. So those guys may not be Hall of Famers, but they're very effective and very critical parts of the team. And Lemieux's success speaks for itself. He won, I think it was 3 cups in his career, one with the Canadiens in 86, early in his career, one with the Devils in 95, and one with the Avs in 96. So his success team-wise and individually speaks for itself. So very effective player.
All right, I'll go next because I can't wait for Jim to come on and give his answer. But Hockey Reference says he actually won 4 Stanley Cups. So I don't know which ones were which, but that's what Hockey Reference says. But
I probably missed the last one. I probably missed the last one.
I'll tell you which one it is. Never mind. Hockey Reference is broken right now, so we're gonna have to wait 1 second. Oh, he got one in 2000 with New Jersey. The one.
Oh yeah, right. He was back in New Jersey. After a while, he kind of changed around teams. So yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're right. He was back in New Jersey, and they still booed him in the Joe.
He should get booed in the Joe, But anyway, so yeah, he did step up his game in the playoffs. He led the NHL playoffs in goals twice. He's a 4-time Cup winner. He's a Conn Smythe winner. He's not, I wouldn't necessarily call him a Hall of Famer. Yeah, the 6 Stanley Cup, or not the 6 Stanley Cups. The 4 Stanley Cups are nice. Don't get me wrong. Like, I do value Stanley Cups when I evaluate players, but he could be a key piece on a Stanley Cup winning team is the point, but he's not, I wouldn't call him a Hall of Famer. I don't think he should get into the Hall of Fame. I don't think his production really warrants Hall of Fame consideration, but he was still a very good player and he could get it done. With all that said, he's still a total bastard. But yeah, Jim, I can't wait to get your take, man.
Well, here's the thing, man. He does not belong in the Hall of Fame. He belongs in the Hall of Shame. This guy, you said take your personal bias out of it. I can't. I absolutely can't. But I like your reference to Asa Tikkanen. I would also say Dino Ciccarelli reminds me a little bit of him because of the antagonistic nature. He was not only an antagonist, not only a coward, but he also no, seriously, but he would sucker teams into penalties. People would just it would make you hate him. Just make you hate him and get you off your game. That was his main goal, was to get someone else off their game. But he could play and he could score. He was a scorer. He was a tough little dude. But my thing is, he was a coward, and I just absolutely hate this guy. I just in the day when he broke Draper's jaw, when the stick work, the butt end stick work he used to do, the slashing, the BS that he got away with. When he got pounded by McCarty, that was the highlight of his career for me. He deserved every punch as he turtled like he usually did.
Turtle.
Yeah.
I hate the guy. I'm not even, and it's like I don't even know the dude, but from watching him with the Red Wings and the way he used to play, I don't like that type of game. I don't. If you're an enforcer, fine. You're an enforcer. You have a job. That's what you're supposed to do. The antagonist has a role as well, but this guy took it too far, in my opinion.
All right. Well, I have a question for you. This might be a terrible this might be a terrible question, but would you feel the same about him if he was let's just say he won a Stanley Cup as a Red Wing? Would you still
probably not, because I'm biased, and you said take your bias out of it, and I don't know if it's possible.
Are you talking about? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just threw a what if in there. Like, would you feel the same way about him? Like,
are you talking about had he joined the Red Wings after all that, or had he been a Red Wing from the very beginning of his career? That makes a difference.
I'm talking about if he won a Stanley. Let's just say he was on a Stanley Cup winning team, and he was on one of the Stanley Cup winning teams. Let's just say he was on one of the Stanley Cup winning teams. Would you still feel the same way about him? Seth?
Who you asking? Okay.
I'm asking Seth.
It would depend. Like I said, if he had been a Red Wing from the very start of his career, yeah, it'd be very different. But had he joined the Wings afterwards, it'd be very hard to accept him, because it was hard as hell for me to accept Yuli Krupp because he was on the Avalanche. I absolutely despise that team. I did not want the Wings to sign him just because he had been an Avalanche. So I know damn sure I would have had a big problem with Lemieux being on the team.
I don't know if I would. And Seth brings up a great point. He said, if he was a Red Wing the whole time, I love Dino Ciccarelli, but there's people that hated him. They just hated him. But I got to respond to this. JMO. So 313 JMO, he says, Jim, you sound like me about Chris Lacey. But Chris Lacey didn't go try to take people's knees out and cut them and hurt players on purpose. And, he wasn't that type of guy. You know what I mean? He's just not very good and keeps sticking around with our team for some unknown reason. With this guy, man, he broke Chris Draper's jaw. He did so many dirty plays and dirty tactics that, you just don't respect a guy like that. You just don't respect. He's the Clay Matthews, I think, of because I don't think Ndamukong Suh was dirty. I think Clay Matthews was dirty, but he's the Clay Matthews of
hockey. Suh was just vicious.
Suh was vicious, and Claude Lemieux was dirty, and there's a difference.
For sure. Does anyone else have anything to add to Claude Lemieux, or I
have only an hour more worth of hatred for this guy, but we don't have that long in the show, so I think I'm going to want to move on just for my health.
Jim, you kind of remind me of how I felt about Triple H during the Attitude Era, especially in 2000. That shows how good of a bad guy wrestler he was, to where fans love to hate him. So that's what you remind me of.
That's funny, but that again, it's choreographed and scripted, which is okay.
Yeah, but still, I just couldn't stand Triple H.
This dude was going out and headhunting and doing really crappy things to real people, you know?
Yeah. No,
It
but,
wasn't like, okay, we've got a gimmick table or a gimmick chair. We've got a real hockey stick that he's putting in people places you shouldn't.
yeah, no, but yeah, JMO, you might want to go watch that link I sent you, and you'll see why Jim feels the way he feels, and it's even deeper than that. But that's
Concussion, broken orbital bone, lost some teeth, and Lord knows what else. Had to suck his food through a straw for the next few months. Missed the first part of the next season.
He buries his face into the penalty box area where there's no glass. Is what I remember. I'm not even
the
video.
And the only guy who saw him, before the end of the game was Iserman. So everyone else was shaking Lemieux's hand. They knew the hit was bad, but not as bad as it was. Right. They didn't find out till afterwards. And Cicerelli was the main guy who was like, "I can't believe I shook the guy's freaking hand." You know, he wanted some payback, but then they traded him in the offseason. So, but yeah.
All right. So I think we're good. I liked everyone's opinion right there. But yeah, let's move on to this question, because this is an interesting thing, I think, to talk about. How do you think the Red Wings organization would be viewed if they were still in the middle of their Stanley Cup drought? And how would you personally view the organization? Jim, let's start this one off with you.
I didn't have that question, so I don't know. Let's see. What was it again? Because I never got that one.
How do you think the Red Wings organization would be viewed if they were still in the middle of their Stanley Cup drought? And how would you personally view the organization?
I honestly don't understand the question, because we are in a Stanley Cup drought right now.
What you're talking about is if they still had gone without the cup since 1955. For instance, I would be, in other words, for my answer, just like the Lions.
That's what I was going to say.
You want to expand on it, or you have anything else to?
No, I mean, we'd be in perpetual hell like Lions fans are at this point. Always hoping beyond hope that this team could build something, but kind of believing in the back of our mind that, it's probably not going to happen.
All right, Seth, do you have anything deeper to add, or?
Not really. It would basically be all the long suffering that we suffer that we endure as Lions fans. Same thing, different sport. It would probably be more like Detroit being viewed as Cleveland was for a while, as the cursed city, kind of along those lines.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that is a scary thought. I like that you bring it up. Like Cleveland, that was, dude. Like, in all honesty, that was awesome when the Cavaliers broke that streak. But would you be saying, like, would you even? I guess here's my question: would you guys even acknowledge that the prior part of the Red Wings history ever happened, when we had Howe and Delvecchio or Barry or Goodfellow and stuff like that?
Well, of course we would, because that'd be all that we have to look back to. That. So of course, just like we look back at Bobby Lane for the Lions.
Yep, for sure. All right, this didn't take as long as I thought it would take.
Well, I wanted to add something.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
That the only difference between the Lions organization right now and the Red Wings organization is the Red Wings organization we trust because they've done it before. And if the Red Wings had never done it before and we're still in that Stanley Cup drought, I think essentially we'd be just like the Lions. You know, I mean, there's no difference whatsoever.
Okay, fair enough. Like I said, this answer didn't take as long as I thought it would take to get through. But all right, we're going to talk about one of our current players. We're going to talk about Filip Zadina. Give us your thoughts on Filip Zadina, guys. I'm going to start this one off because, man, I watched some film on this guy. He's a really talented player. He's a good stick handler, a good puck handler. I think he's also a pretty smart player, always finding the right. Granted, a lot of this film was during his time in the AHL, but I mean, he makes nice, dangerous passes to the slot. I don't know a lot of players that make the passes that Zadina makes they don't necessarily grow on trees. He can find holes in the defense. He's got a nice shot. He can do some things defensively, like get poke checks, get takeaways, and he's got a lot of power play potential. I want him to work out. Like his potential's, I mean, granted, everybody's potential's high when you draft him, but he's a really good player, I think. I just don't know why it hasn't worked out yet. But Jim, what are your thoughts on Zadina?
Zadina isn't even old enough to drink, man. He's 20 years old, so we might want to give the kid a break. Until November, he isn't even old enough to drink. The problem with Philip Zadina is mental, I believe. I don't think it's a physical thing. I mean, he just dominates other leagues. I mean, he's got a great shot. He just can't put it together in the NHL. The defense is a lot better in the NHL. I think that's one of the things that we overlook. But Zadina, like you said, he's a good puck handler. He's got a really good shot. Potential-wise, he could be like Brett Hull, shot-wise and scoring-wise, that type of thing. But he just can't put it together. He gets frustrated way too easily. He believes in himself, which is a good thing, but it almost borders on arrogance. And when he can't, accomplish what he wants to accomplish, he get frustrated too quickly. And so when you get frustrated, you're leading yourself down this path that you're just not going to perform as well as you would have had you just kept working and kept working and kept working. When he got drafted here, he said he's going to fill pucks in the nets of everybody that didn't draft him. He also said, that he should have been up with the Red Wings his first season. That's how much he believes in himself. But yet his game never translated to that. It still hasn't. I think this is a critical year for him. He's on an $850,000 contract. This is the last year of that contract. So he's in, maybe it isn't. Maybe he does have next year yet. But he really needs to start showing something really soon, or I believe he gets traded.
All right, no, that's fair enough. No, like I said, he really is a talented player, and why it hasn't worked out yet, we don't know why it hasn't worked out yet. But if it can work out with Zadina, then that would be fantastic because his potential's high. Seth, what are your thoughts on Philip Zadina?
I'd have to go with Jim on here because he is a very talented player, a very complete player. I think in his case, even though you have more young players coming into the league than before because of the salary cap, it's a different day and age in terms of the game because like I was saying off air, you don't have as many 50-goal scorers. You hardly ever have 60-goal scorers, and you never have 70-goal scorers anymore. So I think maybe if this was a few decades ago, maybe Zadina would have turned that corner and become a 30-goal scorer. But because players are asked to become more complete players, focus on defense and offense, I think that may have played a factor too in kind of mentally stifling him offensively at the NHL level, even if he has become a more complete player. But like Jim said, this is a very critical season, which will basically make or break him in terms of whether or not he'll become a star. I mean, if he doesn't become that star, it's not the end of the world for him in terms of his career. He might end up getting, like Jim said, he'll probably end up getting traded at some point, but he could end up having still a serviceable career as a good, decent all-around guy who could, give you some goal production, some passing, some defense, like a solid second to third line guy. But this season has to be the season that he must prove that he can be a star.
Oh, no, I agree 100% with both of you guys on that. He's a good player. I don't, like I said, it's inexplicable why it hasn't worked out. We got a Micro Mike in the chat. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's up, Mike?
It's good to see
my
you.
crackly voice today.
Yeah, but it's good to see you in the chat, man. Like, seriously, it is. All right, we're going to go on to the last question for the day. Give us your thoughts on potential Red Wings draft prospect Quinton Byfield. Seth, we'll start off with you because I know Jim's got a pretty amazing answer for this guy. So we're going to start off with you.
Start off with me?
No, I'm going to start off with Seth because
okay.
We're not going to be able to top your answer to Quinton Byfield.
Well, I don't know.
Well, from what I read over months and months, this guy will probably go second or third. So most likely he will not be around when the Wings pick 4th. But with that said, let's say, for argument's sake, he does slip to the 4th spot for whatever reason. Would he be a player that I would consider taking? Perhaps. Would I definitely take him over Rossi or Drysdale? Not necessarily. Byfield, he has good size at 6'4". He's 194, so he could bulk up a little bit, get some more muscle, but he has good size, and he has good numbers for the OHL. But then again, seemingly every player has good numbers in juniors. It doesn't always translate to the NHL. Just look at Mike Sillinger, for instance. First round pick for the Red Wings in '89. He was a solid player, but not an elite player. But anyway, I digress. Where was I? Crap. Lost my train of thought, going off on a tangent. There I go.
All right, so we lost.
Hold on. Let me get it back. Okay, so from what I've read, he's a good, he's a very complete player with the 200-foot game. But from what Jim will probably allude to, he's, might be a little bit clumsy and, may not be as smooth of a player all around. A player like Marco Rossi might be a better playmaker and while still being a very good two-way player, while Byfield may have a better shot. And then you have Drysdale as a good two-way defenseman who could potentially form very enticing pairing with Moritz Seider for years and years. So I guess, like I said, overall, Byfield is a good, sounds like he'll be a really good player. And I, will wish him well, in part because, he is black and I'm black. So it's always great to see a black player in the NHL. Full disclosure, yes, I'm black. But would I necessarily pick him if he's there? I'm not sure. I'd have to do a bit more studying, a bit more homework, a little bit more examining, comparing him to a Drysdale or Rossi. But he would definitely make it a very intriguing decision,
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll give my take real fast. He's definitely a very physically gifted player, but he doesn't use his physical gifts as much as he could. I don't know if it's him not knowing how to use them or if it's him not wanting to use them. Like, I don't know which one it is. I'm not going to sit here and say a player doesn't have heart or whatever. I'm not in his head. I'm not in his practices or whatever, but it's definitely notable that he doesn't use his size and physicality as much as he probably could. A lot of his production comes in transition. The playmaking it's good, but not necessarily great. He's not really much of a two-way player. I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential with him, but I feel like with this guy, you're drafting him for potential more than you're drafting him for potential on other players, if that makes any sense. As far as if I would want I would probably pass on him. Like, I'm not big on one-dimensional players unless, like, if you're a one-dimensional player, you gotta be like, if you're a one-trick pony, you have to, that trick that you do, you better be very, very, very good at it. I'm not so sure that he's that great, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know if his one trick is good enough to make me want to pick him, I guess. But Jim, I know what you kind of feel about this guy. So what are your thoughts on Quentin Byfield?
Quentin Byfield, I think, is one of the players that he is scheduled to go, or from everybody who's looking at the NHL draft, 2 or 3 overall. I think he is one that has a potential to fall. And here's my reasoning. He's 6'4" centerman. He has speed to burn. This guy actually has quite a few good things about him. But the biggest problem with the guy is most of his goals are in transition. He does set up players, but his assist game or his playmaking ability is a little bit in question for me. He can make good passes. I don't have a problem with that. I just think that there's times that he takes plays off. I've watched when he he's kind of waiting to cherry pick a little bit. I think he doesn't play as well defensively as he plays offensively. I love the speed. He just has to learn to use his edges better. He has to learn to skate a little bit better. You don't have very many 6'4" guys that play center and that play it well like that, because the bigger you are, the harder it is to skate. So you're going to have that anyway. And with young players, it is generally when they come in the NHL, they don't play as well defensively because they're trying to put up the numbers and stuff like that. So his game, to me, I wouldn't pick him. It's just my thing. He has a tremendous upside, but he has a tremendous potential for downside. I think you have to leave him down for at least a year or two. He's in the Ontario League, which is not a men's league. It's a 16 to 21-year-old league. So that's another red flag for me. In the OHL, it's not a great defensive league, so he hasn't faced the type of defenses he's going to face in like even the AHL, let alone the NHL. So he's going to take time to develop. I mean, could he be potentially, he could be really, really good if he starts using his size, his strength, those type of things. He gets a little stronger. He's kind of a lanky kid, but I think he has potential, but I would stay away from him. Like he has some indications of being a bust. But one thing I wanted to say is Detroit Lions Talk with Micro Mike. Thank you for joining us. I want to plug his channel real quick, and go subscribe to Detroit Lions Talk with Micro Mike and check out the shows that he does. He does some really amazing content, really good at what he does. So, check that out.
Yeah, for sure. No, but yeah, I think we're all on the same. I probably think we can honestly do better. Like I would go Rossi or I would go Drysdale.
Yeah, PD, to be honest, I don't really have a problem with him not being all that physical, because even though everyone loved Eric Lindros, as big and tough as he was, extremely skilled but physical, you could argue that his physical style shortened his career with all those concussions. You could make that argument. So there's a flip side to everything. So him not being that physical doesn't concern me. As being able to take a hit, that would concern me more. But I would agree. I think I would go along the lines of Jim. I was, I guess, trying to be nice and diplomatic, and I didn't want to say that I would pass him, but I would consider passing him, especially if Drysdale or Rossi is still there.
I don't know about him being worse than Rossi. They're just kind of different players. I think but Byfield, because of his size and speed, is very intriguing to teams. I like Rossi's playmaking ability. Rossi doesn't have the shot that Byfield has. So they're just different players. They're honestly just different players. But I think for what the Red Wings do, I could see him fitting their system. I look at Anthony Mantha, how big he is, and he works out pretty well for them. I just think that I don't like the times that he's in the defensive zone. Looks like he has no energy. He's kind of standing around, and then all of a sudden the puck goes the other way, and all of a sudden he's energized now. That's a huge question mark to me. Can that be coached out? Yeah, it can be, but you just gotta question.
It's good if you already have that, like Larkin did,
Rossi's a two-way. Rossi's a two-way center, and I like that better.
Plus, even though he may not have as good of a shot, he can set up someone like Mantha, Larkin, or even Zadina. Who knows? Or Bertuzzi, he can set those guys up. Help them score.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's going to be a terrible player or whatever. I think he's going to take a while to develop, and I think that they need to watch the mental part of the game with him. And it's just my opinion.
All right. Yeah. I think everyone has very fair points about Byfield, but yeah, I don't think we really have much else to go over for the day. I don't really see anything in the chat to really answer, but yeah, do you guys want to do anything else, or do you think we can go ahead and close the show out?
I'm good. I'm very good.
Same here.
All right, I'll just start off with my final words, I guess. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's And thanks, Mike, for tuning in. Also, thanks, JMO. Thanks, everybody in the chat, for coming in. We're still going to try to continue to grow this show. It's definitely a work in progress, but we will continue to try to grow this out and try to get this going. But no, this was a good show today. It's one of our best shows, I personally think. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. We hope you enjoyed. Lions football starts tomorrow. I'm scared. I'm like excited and scared at the same time. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming in. Jim, we'll go to you for the next final words.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for coming in the chat. Micro Mike, Luke G, JMO, 313 JMO, all guys that are supporting us and things like that. It's very important for a young show to get that kind of support. We really appreciate it. And all those channels, JMO's trying to get to 1,000 and he's pretty close. I think he's 20 away or something like that right now. So go subscribe to 313 JMO. Micro Mike doing his thing, man. I mean, he's really good at, his breakdowns and his football shows are really, really good. So go check that out. Luke G, fellow member of the DSA with us, and his video on Jared Davis is really intriguing because a lot of people don't like Jared Davis. And I know it's not all hockey stuff, but Red Wings this year, it's going to be a weird year because they start in December. So, I'm looking at this as kind of another wash year, and I want this to people to have lowered expectations for this year, and then next year I really think we're going to start coming back together. Do you know what I mean? So, but I appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate PD for putting this on. He's hosting the show. Appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you do, bud. And for Seth Walker to be here with us, the Seth Walker,
Yeah.
our resident Red Wing historian, and
Yep.
I really appreciate you too. All right, guys, have a good day. That's my final thought.
All right, I guess one other thing is if you know anyone that talks Red Wings hockey, we're looking to talk Red Wings. We're looking for people to join the show. So we would love to have anyone that wants to come on, and anyone that wants to talk Red Wings hockey that's passionate about this team to be able to give their thoughts on this team. But all right, Seth, give us your final thoughts, and we will end the stream.
All right, well, eventually I will come up with the next part of my Red Wings anthology where I will be looking back at the very, very, very dreadful 1985-86 season when the Red Wings only had 40 points and everyone thought that they were going back to being the Dead Wings. So that will be a challenge for me to write and pull out some positives from that, but I will be working on that. Also, in the meantime, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And like Stevie Y said, be patient. Please don't be like, when are they going to fire Blashill? Be patient. Who else are they going to get to replace him? You don't expect a miracle like the Blues. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity that happens in a Disney film. So be patient. At least be glad that you have a GM for your hockey team that will tell you to be patient, unlike Bob Quinn, who is another story. And if I have to endure another season of Lions football where Patricia says we have to coach it up better, I think I'm going to freaking scream. But forgive me for going off on a tangent there. So, but again, thank you for watching. And tune in, same time, same place. You heard it from me, Seth Walker.
All right, one last plug. Make sure to go over to, I believe the DSA Above the Rim show will be on Detroit Drew's channel, so make sure you tune into that. It'll be happening at 8:00 Eastern. So yeah, thank you all again for tuning in. And with that said, we are out.